Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Catechumens Depart. Father Mark is getting in focus tonight. I'm Eric Anderson.
Father Mark Kozak from Assumption of the Holy Virgin Mary Church in South Philadelphia. Also known as Philly.
Philly, that's easier.
Yeah, that's easy.
I'm going to go real analog, and I'm going to, if I can remember how to work my analog watch timer. There we go. Ooh, look at that. It's got a little hand going tick, tick, tick.
I can even put my thing on.
Oh.
Why don't we do that?
Let's do that since
That's even more fun.
we don't have
I think I even know how to do this.
Oh.
Which is even like, really?
We're like demonstrating our technical prowess in real time.
Here we go, really? Okay, there we go.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Amazing.
Very good. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Oh, that's right. We didn't have any major questions or anything this week. We did, however, accidentally pass a milestone last week because I can't number files on my computer correctly. Last week was our 20th episode, which makes this 21.
And I can't even count properly because I'm a history major.
Oh.
So,
You do dates good, though.
I'm very good with dates. Yes, I'm very good with dates. But, so yes, and we did not have a big party for our 20th. And,
no.
We could have. We should have.
We should have. We just had like lunch, like we usually do.
We had lunch,
which is pretty good. I mean, that's good.
That's good.
It falls on Thursday, so we can eat exciting things.
We can.
So last week we talked about fragmentation and dispersion and all of that stuff,
and the
Tower of Babel, in what felt like, as we did it, maybe our most difficult to wrap my head around episode, but I think it was like our most watched episode. So,
which is very weird.
I know. People were like, can they make it through this? Can they make any of this make sense?
I was wondering about that myself, about the 5-minute mark, whether I was going to be able to do anything last time.
We did okay. We didn't get to talk about the Babylonian myths and the other stuff.
And the
Mexican Aztec myths
and the Sumerian myths, and there were all kinds of myths.
I know. That's fun stuff. You guys have to look it up. We have the internet.
That's right.
It's good.
Look up Tower of Babel, and they will give you all the myths about the Tower of Babel.
Yep, and you'll get cool pictures of ziggurats, which I didn't use for slides. Anyway, so piggybacking off of that, and jumping back a little bit with our discussion of the post-Christian West, I want to talk today about something called Ecumenism. Father Mark was super excited when I proposed that on Sunday.
It's just, oh my.
So, first of all, let's define terms. What is that? What does the word mean, Father?
Well, it means lots of things.
Okay.
On the one hand, for many Protestant groups, it means the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches that have been meeting since the 1920s. And
I used to work in that building.
And some of whom believe they were put together specifically, so all the Christian churches could be together as one again, and we all can come together and hug and hold hands, and I'm not really being facetious, because this is what a number of them believe, and believe the same thing and do the same thing to get together. So that's one group.
Okay. So that's like a unification dialogue on the Protestant side.
Dialogue thing, everything else. On the other end, which is they think that that's what this group is for too. On the other end, the far other end of the so-called anti-ecumenical people thinks that's what this group is for. So they think the same thing, and they don't want to have anything to do with it because either their church is right, or we don't believe in that, or there's all kinds of interesting things.
You're still talking about the Protestant paradigm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what it really is something in between, and it leans more towards the people who are interested in intercommunion and others. We have had Orthodox participation from the very beginning, and originally it was for 2 reasons. Can you guess what they are?
Oh, you're not supposed to ask me questions.
I can't ask questions for you. Do you want me to tell you what they are?
No. Let me noodle.
Ever.
Well.
One is really obvious. And one is
Orthodox mission, I suppose, would be the obvious Orthodox one, right? To be like, hey, we're still going over here, right? Like,
so like we exist.
Yeah.
We're Eastern Christians.
Yeah.
This is what we believe. We're creedal. This is the Holy Tradition. The Church of the Apostles. This is who we are.
What's the second one?
The second one is that we actually got together with other Orthodox Christians that we hadn't really talked a lot to because they were under communist or anti-church regimes.
Okay.
So if the Russian church showed up and the Serbian church showed up and the Albanian church showed up, these were people that hadn't talked to each other in a long time because they were all under oppressive governments and everything.
Yeah.
Now, were there spies in their groups? Yes, there were. But some major figures in the church got together during the ecumenical, especially the WCC meetings, and got to see each other.
Oh, okay. Is this back in the 20th century? I assume.
Yes, yeah. 20th century.
So were the communist countries allowing their people out?
They were allowing their people out.
With spies?
Because they had their own propaganda machine of using the church, saying to the West, look how good we've done with our church. You know, so on how helpful we've been and everything else. And there was the Soviets were very, very good at this. Of course, no one believed them, except for some of the Protestant groups.
Yeah.
But overall, no.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're doing good. Why are you all so thin then?
Yeah. So those are the first major reasons why.
Okay.
That we were involved with that.
Okay.
We've had Orthodox be one of the 6 presidents. There are 6 presidents. Used to be 6 presidents at one time.
Of the World Council of Churches.
World Council of Churches. We've had. I don't think we've hosted it in a so-called Orthodox country, but we've had people involved with it. Now, by that involvement, the anti-ecumenical group automatically call you heretics, apostates, and worse words than that. Which is like, number one, what are you talking about? Yeah. Because what is your definition of being ecumenical? Yeah. And number 2, do you have any idea what we do? Because you could say that my 21 and a half years in the military was an ecumenical mission. Right. That's kind of why I wanted to talk with you about that, is because you have, I think, a unique, not unique, but you have a particular insight into working across party lines, I guess, if you want to put it that way, right? In the military, and just you had to. It's not like you get to be like, we're ROCOR or whatever, we don't talk to anybody else, or I'm just picking one, or we're OCA or whatever. Like, you kind of had to. You're like, I'm a military chaplain. You don't have the luxury of being like, I don't talk to the Catholics. Yeah, right? I don't work with Baptists. I worked with everybody. Yeah. And what did that experience sort of teach you, or how did that inform you? So number one, there are parameters in working in the military or working in institutional ministry. When I say institutional ministry, this means working in hospitals as a chaplain, in prisons, and so on. And the parameters in the military are your church approves you to come in to take care of your people.
Mm-hmm.
2, you are there, especially in the military, you are there to guarantee the religious rights of all of your people, of all of your command.
Okay, all your command,
That
okay.
means somebody comes in and says, I belong to this faith group and I want to have my services and everything else and so on and so forth. It was my job as chaplain not to provide them.
Right, you can't. Okay.
But rather to do the research, figure out where this guy's coming from, and to see if there's a local area church where he could go to or get hooked up with. So what does that mean? Well, to the furthest extent, that means on my first duty station, which was a Navy boot camp and schools command that had in excess of 30,000 people on the base, there were 19 chaplains, including a Jewish rabbi, 3 Catholic priests, 1 Orthodox priest, and a bunch of Protestant groups. So I did an Orthodox Divine Liturgy every Sunday for the recruits from the Navy side, and there was a Marine recruit based right next door. So I had Marines in my group too.
Nice.
Those are the only services that I did. So I fulfilled 1 of 2 of my jobs of being in the military. So you take care of your own, you facilitate for others, and you protect someone's constitutional right to believe what they want to believe. And that can mean nothing. If they want to believe nothing, that's okay. So you can't have, in the military, you cannot have your boss, you cannot go into your boss's office and they take out the Bible and start pointing at it and saying, you read this, I believe this, and this is what you should believe, and so on and so forth. And we've had people do that. That is against the law.
Yeah.
That is against the Constitution of the United States of America. And I took the oath 35 years ago last week to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and so on. And that's what it meant for being a chaplain, is to do that. So I never did a non-Orthodox service if I was in a situation and people would ask, well, what if you were out on a ship somewhere and there were no Orthodox Christians? And well, I've been in that situation. And so the time before lunch comes up on a Sunday, and I do 6th hour. So I explain to the people, well, 6th hour is a group of prayers, including Our Father, so the Christians would come and be with me. And I'll do an epistle reading for today from one of St. Paul's epistles, and I'll do the gospel reading. That's what I did if there were no Orthodox Christians there.
Nice.
If there were Orthodox Christians there, I would have a divine liturgy, and the Orthodox would go to communion and so on and so forth, which I also had on the ship. So the idea, the chaplain's job is to really take care of all of his or her, and there are her chaplains, female chaplains, people. And then the final thing, which is probably the most important thing, is that you are the spiritual, ethical, and moral advisor to the commanding officer. And you're the only person in the command on a ship or whatever you're on that has total confidentiality.
Right.
Do you understand what that means? Because a lot of even Orthodox don't understand what total confidentiality means.
That means you can't say anything about what's said to you to anybody.
That means it's between me, you, and God.
Yeah.
And God and I aren't going to break it. So when I was in chaplain school, of course, we had a number of interesting Protestants who had interesting little stories that they wanted to tell and experiences that they had and so on and so forth. And I was the only non-Protestant in my class. So they came up with the break all confidentiality thing.
Of course.
Sailor Smith comes to your office and says, Chaplain, I planted a bomb on the ship. It's going to go off in 5 minutes. And tick tock, tick tock. You know, I hate the Navy and everything else, and I'm going to blow everybody up. So what do? Clock is ticking.
That's why I'm not a chaplain. I have no idea what yeah.
Now, you could break confidentiality.
Right.
And probably get out of this, and probably you would be a semi-hero and save the ship and everything else.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you need to talk this person to a point, and this is what when people were suicidal, I did a lot of suicidal prevention work. You just need to talk the person down to a point where they are ready to tell me where the bomb is. So the only way of doing this, and please forgive me, is to basically do this. Person, you'll tell me where the bomb is.
Yeah.
You know, and there ain't no fooling around.
And you're like a pretty tall guy, so like
I was bigger, and and now I think that would have probably worked about 95% of the time.
Yeah.
So I did. Once he tells me where the bomb is, then the confidentiality is broken.
Right.
Okay. Now I listen to all kinds of stuff in confidential counseling, marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling, officers enlisted, family members, and so on. And much of it was having to do with their own personal behavior. This includes people from the entire spectrum of the homosexual community, because I was in the military even before there was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So I had a homosexual guy come into my office when I was on my first ship and says, I'm a homosexual, and I want to get out of the Navy. So, and there was a way of doing that.
Oh.
So I walked him through it.
Nice.
And then I literally walked him through it. Walked him to his chain of command and did the whole thing. And provided pastoral care to him while he was getting out. People that had been sexually assaulted, people who were suicidal, people that had been, when I was working in Navy hospitals, people that had been severely wounded. And I went to I was in the Iraqi war. So those are the kind of people that I dealt with. And were all of them Orthodox? No. Were 0.1% or 1% of them Orthodox, or 1 to 3% Orthodox. Maybe. When I could find the Orthodox people, number one, because they were very tricky on being found. They would
secretly Orthodox.
They would put down on the religion thing. They put other down because it looks like Orthodox, OTH.
Oh.
For other.
Of.
Yeah, but it's Orthodox, ORTH. So so I would spend much of my time looking for the Orthodox people.
Here comes that priest trying to ferret me out again.
You find that priest is looking for me. Now, like I said, I did not put on my stole and got together and did other services for other people. If I did a memorial service for someone, I did basically Orthodox prayers for that. I did a lot of those. A number of burials at sea with cremains. And there are services for non-Orthodox to do that.
Okay.
So I spent 20 odd years of my life in this ecumenical place because I worked with, and then they worked for me. I was their superior officer. I was their boss for people, many different people from many different faith groups. No matter what they believed in, and that was quite interesting. Do I believe that we still should be involved with the ecumenical movement, whatever that is? My read on it is that we should go as observers and that we probably needed to step back a while ago because things have gone a little bit crazy in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
With the ordination of in some groups of everybody.
Yeah, just kind of anybody. Yeah.
And then the intercommunion thing of the many Protestants believe that, well, many Catholics believe this too. And this is a great difference between Orthodox and Protestants and Catholics, and I'd like you all to remember this really succinctly if you're dealing with other people. Communion is the way towards unity for many Catholics and many Protestants.
Mm-hmm.
So you can walk into their church and take communion anytime.
Right.
That's what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
For the Orthodox, communion is the culmination of your belief.
Mm.
So when I became an Orthodox Christian 46 odd years ago, I read, went to class, talked to people, talked to the priest, went to confession, was chrismated, and then finally went to communion.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I went to communion and, so unity for Orthodox for 2,000 years
is
communion is the culmination of the unity, not part of the unity.
How you enter into it. Yeah,
so that's a place where you have to be, and people say, well, you have closed communion now. It's like, no. If you're Orthodox, you can come over.
Yeah. It's open to all Orthodox Christians.
All Orthodox Christians who are in, spiritually sound and everything else.
Yeah.
And everything else. But yeah.
It's a different understanding of how it works.
In our belief, why would someone who isn't Orthodox come to communion?
Right.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, like why would you? That's just.
Why would you do that? It's
weird. Like, do you believe what we believe? Then why would you?
This is the body and blood of Christ.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the epiclesis? Do you believe in all the other mysteries of the church? Do you believe in? I mean, the Eucharist is wrapped around everything that we do in the church. Mm-hmm. So, do you believe in Jesus Christ as put out by the Nicene Creed, by the 7 ecumenical councils? We can go on and on and on and on. And this is our faith, and that believing in those things and talking about those things is the road towards unity.
Now I'm curious. Oh, hi Maggie. Kind of thinking about that, all of that in sort of relationship to the post-Christian context discussion that we were having. Just because it sort of looks like there aren't going to be that many people of any Christian confession left for a bit, based on demographic shifts and things, and the way that most young people identify as no religious affiliation and things. So it seems to me like there are going to be like a remnant here, a remnant there, a remnant there. There will be some Baptists left. There will be some Methodists, some Orthodox, whatever. What do you think? How do we draw together, I guess, across those party lines? So again, to say that, what do you think ecumenism in a scenario like that might look like, based on sort of your experience in the military and things? I don't know. Is that a good question? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have any problem with Orthodox clergy belonging to area clergy groups. But we have to remember that you follow the discipline of the church. So you're there to, first of all, to provide a window for the Orthodox Church, for someone to look in at us. And then, you're there to provide answer to any questions about the church and everything else. For people to understand that they don't really know anything about us. So this is where we've had high church Protestants, Anglo-Catholics, the various Catholic splinter groups that have come off the Polish Orthodox Church. There was a group in Mexico, a number of groups in Mexico that belong to the Polish Catholic Church. There were a number of groups in Mexico that became Orthodox out of the Mexican Catholic group, and so on. So this is where the people would gravitate towards us.
Yeah.
But if they don't know anything about us, how can they do that?
Right.
It's like, now, of course, now we have, I mean, it's 2020, we're in, after we do this today and the director puts it in, we're on the internet.
We are on the internet.
So, we're 21 fun-filled catechumen depart thing.
Except for the jurisdictions one which everyone skipped.
Except for the jurisdictions one which no one wants to listen to.
We don't usually get likes or that was all dislikes, but 20 plus the jurisdictions.
Yeah. So, is there a need for that? Yes. Are there still people that are going to walk by our churches and ignore us? Yes.
Yeah.
It's sad. I mean, the church that we belong to has been on that spot for 107 years, almost 108 years.
Yeah.
And it's the Christian presence, in the neighborhood, along with the people that run our hall. And probably most of our neighbors have no idea what it is. Besides, they know that we do bells and that we have strange processions sometimes, and weird music comes out of the church and everything else. And but we've had a couple of people from the neighborhood come in and look at us, and we've had a couple of converts.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah. I guess go ahead.
No, go on. I think I'm
I'm trying to work out for myself and for people who are watching too, is like, I know a number of us who, myself and then a lot of the people who are tuning in are converts, and it's like we converted to Orthodoxy for a reason, and like I'm trying to figure out like how to relate to my dad's understanding of Christianity, for example, or my brothers or whatever, as people dwindle away, right? Like, I mean, I just feel like there aren't going to be that many people, and perhaps there will be a great resurgence as people grow hungry for meaning. I mean, that's what we could hope, right? But at least for the moment, like, because there's always, like in America, it feels like there's been this kind of like a bit of antagonism, like, hey, let's turn that off. Oh, look, it's telemarketers. Sorry, I forgot.
We got to answer.
I know. Maybe I should.
They are.
Talk about ecumenical dialogue. Woo!
There you go.
And so, how are we on time?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're right at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well. We did okay. Well, then I'll just wrap it up, right? Because in the past it was like, well, we're Methodist and we're Baptist and we're UCC and blah 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 blah. And as there are, and all of the denominational squabbles and things that we've talked about earlier, as all of us sort of like shrink down, I guess it's like, well, how do we engage our fellow confessors of Christ as Orthodox people generously and openly? Maybe in this new world where there just aren't as many. I
think we do the same thing we've been talking about and doing. We look at them straight in the face and basically say, look, I know you've invited me to your church. Why don't you come to our church? And let's talk about our church service that we had. And let's talk about what the priest said.
Yeah. And
then maybe further we can talk about what the Nicene Creed is, because I'm sure you may have heard what that is.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what that belief is. Let's talk about why we have icons all over the place.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why we kiss things. Well, we used to kiss things, but we'll kiss things again.
Masks.
Let's talk about these things instead of keeping our mouths shut and not saying nothing, which is basically what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So in America, still probably a good 90% of the people are going to come to church, to your church, because you asked them and you answered questions for them. That's why.
Cool.
That's why.
Yeah. So it's like, sure, I'll come to the Baptist church with you and like meet your people, but you got to come to mine, like, or got to, yeah. It's like there's a way to talk across those barriers somehow. Cool. Well, thank you. I had a good time today.
Me too.
Thanks for all the stories. That was nice. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. And until next week, I'm gonna have to dart way off camera, so I'm gonna like do it, and
It's gonna really dark.
Oh, if the subdeacon's watching,
I'm not Dodge dark.
I'm gonna. Oh no. Were those the ones that exploded? Anyway.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us, and until next week, catechumens depart.
Oh, you pointed the other way, and the dogs barked.